Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King 2. And today I'm going to be giving you part 12 of What If Naruto Had a New Dream That Changed Everything. Remember to get this one to 100 likes as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, stay in tune because I'm going to be posting a new episode over on Anime King and Anime King 3 for you guys to enjoy. And I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and if you're not, I hope these videos can make it a little bit better. So sit back, relax, and enjoy guys. And remember, if you're new, to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. Anime King, Anime King 2, and Anime King 3. All links will be in the description for you guys to enjoy. So yeah, without further ado, what is to begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last part we left off, as Naruto and his group made their way, after Naruto explained to the group what he did with the gloves had sealing arrays in them. Space Knife ninjutsu with separate pocket dimensions, which you seal away Itachi's attack and then release it. They continued on with their journey as they met up with Team Guy, who had been sent by Tsunade to back them up. As Naruto saw the 5-point seal, other than going out, he disabled it himself, as they all flashed inside as Gaara was there. He was dead. Naruto used his chains to pull Gaara away, and the battle started. Deidara and Sasori was a fool, as they trapped themselves inside this cave, and Deidara couldn't use too much explosive, as he didn't want to bring the entire place down. He was quickly taken out by Naruto redirecting the poison from Sasori towards him as he passed out. The group then focused on Sasori releases 100 puppets. They were able to wipe them out and defeat Sasori, as nature was the one that saw Sasori's heart and destroyed it, ending the life of Sasori. As they made their way, Chiyo decided to make the ultimate sacrifice. She felt that Naruto was no longer a Jinchuriki when he decided to help her, with giving her some of his chakra to help bring back Gaara. But she ended up dying, so no one will know. So with that, the group made their way back to Konoha after saying their goodbyes to Gaara, as they had the captive Deidara, but they were attacked by the masked man Toby. As he was acting out childish, the leader sent him to retrieve Deidara, and that is exactly what he did when they were distracted, as he took Deidara and headed off. The group made their way back to Konoha as they explained to Tsunade, as Naruto was thinking about a Fuinjutsu seal on, disrupting that space-time ninjutsu that the masked man was using. As Naruto was in the office left with Tsunade alone, he wanted something, as he wanted to prove to Sakura that Fuinjutsu can do anything, so he wanted her to teach him her strength jutsu. But she didn't want to teach him it, so he decided to bribe her by giving her a massage. And also, he was going to create a seal that would help any team when they are on missions. They didn't need a medic because the seal would be vitalized with medical ninjutsu chakra that could heal. Not to mention he would get some Gamabunta safe for her. Hearing all the tempting offers, Tsunade wondered what harm could Naruto do with her strength jutsu, as she was getting so much in return. So yeah guys, that's basically as we left off. You guys can switch across and place injector for yourself. So this to begin this new episode. I can't believe I'm doing this, Tsunade said. Think about all the life you're saving, Tsunade, came Naruto's amused voice. That's the only reason why you're still alive, you bastard, she said. As Naruto stayed silent, knowing how pissed off she was right now. The reason for this, it was because two of them were in a training field, working on Naruto Fuinjutsu version of Tsunade's strength, and also the medical palm. Naruto had neglected to mention to her in the office before she agreed that she needed to be naked for this to work, as he needed a direct skin contact to record the chakra flow precisely. So at the moment she was standing in a private training field, naked, covered in steel and paper. They have been at it for a while now as Naruto had to adjust some of his seals, and now he got it finally working. Tsunade would use a mystical palm, and the detail of her chakra flow would be recorded into the seals that were over her body. Then Naruto would remove them and place new ones in their position to make sure nothing was missed. Her hand was twitching violently when he placed a seal over her chest. as she had to resist the urge not to knock his light out. And the fact that he was just staring, it didn't help at all. Alright, we're done with Miss Palm, Naruto said, making Tsunade sign relief. I guess you didn't need to take your pants off at all. Since the chakra flow there didn't change at all, he said. Tsunade grind her teeth in irritation at the smug bastard who didn't even tell her that until it was all over. Don't bother putting them on yet though. We still need to do a certain technique, and I'm gonna need to examine your legs for that one. Tsunade started leaking off killing intent to frighten off all the animals inside the training field. Oh come on Tsunade, think of it this way. You got a man that is over 30 years younger staring at you. You should be flattered really. Tsunade's eyes started to twitch as her hands started to tremble. How about some more massaging and sake after we're done with this, Naruto said. She calmed down a bit after hearing that. Getting massaged and dead drunk was the exact thing she needed after getting roped in and allowing Naruto to get a full peep show. Time skip. Neji and Hinata has been working together to improve the Hyugan style. Neji was rather surprised when Hinata had decided that she didn't like the traditional style, as it was too rigid. It wasn't flexible enough, as she wanted to create a flexible version. As Neji was surprised how it turned out, the seals that Naruto placed on Hinata's body had increased her speed over time. Adding that with her flexibility and reaction time, Hinata became a pretty good fighter, enough to give him trouble and even win sometimes against him. The Hyuga elders were angry about this devolve from the traditional technique, but Hayashi had spoken against them, as Hinata was allowed to do what she pleased. This in no way hurt the clan, because when you look at it, she was creating a better version of the style that was flexible. Probably some other Hyugas don't even like the rigid, standard style. Hinata was also working on medical ninjutsu as well. She wasn't that much of a medic, but Shizune had taught her a few things, so she could heal minor injuries and wounds. Everything was going smooth, but they have been talking about an arranged marriage for Hinata. But Hayashi wouldn't mention anything else about it, like date or name or anything like that, as Hinata was glad that it seemed like to be just a rumor. There have even been talk about branding her and her sister, but it always get delayed for one reason or another. The elders were really against them changing up things. The both of them were just taking a break from their training when Naruto showed up. You wanted to see me about something, little sister, Naruto said, quite curious, as he wondered why Hinata asked him to meet her here. Hinata smiled, happy that he still called her that despite the fact that they haven't seen each other in 3 years. She didn't really count that embarrassing encounter in his apartment as a proper meeting, seeing that she passed out when, well, that woman started to talk about Naruto doing those things. Yes, I have something for you. She looked towards Neji, who nodded at her in reassurance. Neji-san and I have managed to get the notes for the cage bird seal. Naruto's eyebrow rose in interest as he took the notebook from Hinata and started to go through it. The notes were quite extensive, much more than you would think than just seeing that small seal on a branch member forehead. After a minute he spoke. This is exactly what I needed. Whoever made this seal must be a skilled SealMaster. It's gonna take me a while to decipher this and find a way to remove it without killing the carrier. There's a lot of traps built into it. Is it that bad? I thought you'd be able to remove it easily after having the notes, Neji questioned. The Fuinjutsu formulas made no sense to him or Hinata, and they didn't dare show it to anyone else. Cursed seals are always a nasty piece of work, and this one is well made. Like really well made, said Naruto. I can already see that the moment it's applied, it starts to latch onto your life force. That is why it's so hard to remove without killing the carrier. Hinata and Neji nodded in understanding. It worried them, but they have already seen Naruto's skill in Fuinjutsu, so they shouldn't be worried about anything. These aren't the original notes though. I can clearly see that you wrote these yourself. Well, the original seal notes are too well guarded. We couldn't just take them. It took us 2 years to copy it, because we had to be so careful, Hinata said, uncertainly. As Naruto heard the tone in her voice, there's something else, isn't there? We think that Hayashi-sama know that we've been doing this, Neji. And what makes you say that, said Naruto? At first, it was impossible to get to the notes since they were guarded in the clan vault, but we managed to get there once. During a festival because the guards were lighter than usual, said Neji. What changed, Naruto asked. I saw father carrying out part of the notes out of the vault into his office one day, several weeks after that. I used my Byakugan to look through the walls so I can see where he hid them. I saw that he was still holding them in his hands by the time I got to my room, and he had his Byakugan activated as well. I know he saw me looking at him, but he just placed the notes in that secret compartment, and then he turned his Byakugan off like he didn't see anything, said Hinata. We managed to copy that part of the notes very easily, since Haichisama's office is easier to get into than the vault. After that, we couldn't progress any further. Months later, Haichisama passed me in the hallway, and I heard paper crinkling in one of his sleeves. I made my way to my room and activated my Byakugan. He was sitting at his desk doing paperwork, with his own Byakugan activated as well. Almost as soon as I activate mine, he picked up one of the papers and put them in that same secret compartment. When we went to check, we saw that it was the next part of the notes, said Neji. And I'm guessing this pattern continued until you had the whole thing copied, said Naruto. Yes, Hinata said. Sounds to me like you've been helping out you guys in a strange, well, not involved way, said Naruto. It seemed that way to us as well, but we haven't confronted him about it, so we can't be sure. We wouldn't have been able to do this if it wasn't for him though. The vault is too well guarded most of the time, said Neji, as Hinata nodded. As the both of them remember what Hachi said to them sometimes, right after he placed the notes in his decks, when he was passing by in the hall. You must always act in the best interest of the Hyuga. They have heard that sentence many times before, and he spoke it in that same neutral tone that he always used. But the timing was perfect for what he was doing at the time. Either way, know that Naruto had the notes. The difficult part was over for them. Know they had to prevent a bloodbath between the main and branch. Even if Heishi was on their side, the elders wouldn't take lightly to this, to find out that someone could remove the seal. Time skip. So, did you guys hear about the babe that Naruto is supposed to living with? Said Kiba. That troublesome redhead. I met her 3 years ago, and now Ino tell me that she lived with Naruto. They deserve each other if you ask me. They're both just too troublesome, said Shikamaru. Choji made munching noises, much too busy with his barbecue to bother talking, as the three of them were in the barbecue restaurant, just hanging out since they have time off. As Shikamaru was slowed watching with Choji, when Choji got hungry, and they ran into Kiba on the way. Apparently, Akamaru needed a medical checkup, which left Kiba to wander in the village, bored out of his mind. Kiba invited Shin to come as well, but he said that he had something to do. That was his saying that he had to gather bugs. They would have invited Neji to come along, but he wasn't much for hanging out. And getting Lee to take time off from training was literally impossible if it wasn't a special occasion. I wonder, how is it living with a woman for him though? Since Naruto is so much of a womanizer, said Kiba. According to Ino, this Zanna that Naruto is living with is as much as a pervert as he is, said Shikamaru. Zanna, huh? Strange name, Kiba said. But man, why does Naruto always get all the good women? I still can't believe he got Kurna Sensei to sleep with him. If I heard Asuma Sensei's rumbling right, then Kurna and Anko got together after sleeping with him. Shikamaru said in a lazy tone. Normally, he wouldn't just reveal people's private life like that. But with Anko, it wasn't much of a secret, as the woman was quite proud of her sex life, and she was happy to rub people's face in it. Huh, he must not be all that if Kurna Sensei became a lesbian after sleeping with him. Kiba said in triumph, but his mind was filled with images of Anko and his old sensei in the sack together. Keep telling yourself that, Kiba. It's still not gonna change the fact that you're still a virgin, and that Naruto was having more sex than half the village put together at your age. Said Shikamaru, as Choji choked on a piece of meat, laughing at Kiba's expense. Where do you get off saying that, you bastard? You're as much a virgin as me, said Kiba, with an angry, embarrassed face. Yeah, but I know I'm one of the uncool guys that does get a lot of female attention. I'm not even going to try to compete with someone as troublesome as Naruto. Well, I'm not an uncool guy, Kiba insisted. Yeah, that is why you're sitting at a table with two other uncool guys, talking about how much action another guy is getting. Kiba fumed as he looked at Choji for support. You don't agree with him, Choji? Shikamaru might be uncool, but we're both pretty badass, aren't we? I don't know, Kiba. I never thought of myself much of a cool guy, said Choji. Kiba huffed and sit back down, flinging a piece of meat in his mouth. He was not an uncool guy, damn it! Hey, isn't that Naruto, said Choji, as he looked out the window, as the other two turned their head as well. Of course it was Naruto. You couldn't mistake a 6'7", long blonde hair, who had the habit of wearing a black cloak that showed off his bare chest. But there was a redhead walking by his side as well. I am calling him over, said Kiba, as his eyes were firmly fixed on the woman at Naruto's side. He was told that she was beautiful, but damn, he needed to get a better look. Kiba, don't. Shikamaru tried to stop him, but he was already gone through the door. Troublesome, said Shikamaru. The two of them were clearly on a date or something, and Kiba was buttoning his nose, where it was liable to get cut off. As Shikamaru watched, the woman and Naruto seemed rather amused by the thought, as they came back inside with Kiba as well, and now they were all sitting down. With the way that they sat down, Zanna was sitting next to Shikamaru, facing Choji, as Naruto was sitting next to her, facing Kiba. Naruto's coat was getting in the way because of the length, so he took it off and he was now topless. The other three males rolled their eyes when they saw how much attention Naruto was getting by just walking inside. Ever since his status as a Shinjuki has been revealed, it wasn't forbidden to talk about it anymore. And apparently Naruto was not well liked by most of his siblings and some of the shinobi. People who knew him thought that it was stupid. Sure, the blonde was crazy and he could push the button when he wanted. But when you got to know him, he was a really cool guy. I suppose I should do the introductions, Naruto said, once he got comfortable. Guys, this is Zanna, my incredibly sexy lover. Zanna, this is Shikamaru, an over-intelligent slacker without any real ambition in life. Shikamaru gave a small wave. He had met her already, but he didn't really talk much. She just, well, kind of threatened him to make sure that Naruto was okay. And Kiba, a mutt that tried way too hard to impress the ladies. Oi, I'm not a mutt, you bastard, Kiba said. You smell like one, said Naruto. And I'll have you know I'm not a bastard. My parents were married when they had me, to each other. And this is Choji, Naruto said. He get mad when you call him fat. Choji looked annoyed by the introduction, but he didn't get too mad. Naruto didn't call him fat, actually. He just said that he get mad when you call him fat. And that was true. Strange people you associate with Naruto. Zanna said she leaned back, as her chest was on full display. She raised her eyebrow and Kiba's gaze was instantly drawn to them. He quickly turned his head as he noticed him. It was really hard not to look. The redhead was just so hot. Kiba had no idea when Naruto found her, but she was just so beautiful and exotic, and she knew it. The low-cut yukata that she was wearing showed off her chest, and if his eyes were not deceiving, they didn't need a bra for support. See something you like? Kiba said Naruto in a frosty tone. Kiba realized in horror that he has been staring at her breasts, like he was hypnotized. Judging by Shikamaru's expression, it must have been too long. No, I mean, I'm sorry. Kiba might have been cocky, but he knew better than to mess with another man's woman, or stare at her boobs. That was a good way to lose teeth, especially if you're messing with someone like Naruto, as he was sure the blonde would even think twice about punching his lights out right here right now. Not to mention it was uncool on his book to stare at a buddy's girlfriend. They might not exactly be best friends, but they were on good terms at least. No. Am I not good enough to look at then? Said Zanna. Kiba felt his stomach try to twist and turn when you look at that predatory gaze. There was something about this woman that he could not, well, explain, but every instinct was telling him to not let her get angry. No, I mean, yes, you're totally hot. He blurted out, hoping that it was the right thing to say. The sound of Shikamaru's face planting. It really wasn't. What was that? Said Naruto. He broke out into a nervous sweat. There was just no winning this. If he tried to appease one, then he was going to get chewed out by the other. But Naruto snorted, as he was just too amused to hold that hostile expression for too long. Pathetic, said Zanna as she leaned against Naruto. You had more guts than this one. When you were 10 years old, Naruto. Kiba took a direct hit, right in his pride. As far as this super hot woman was concerned, he didn't even measure up to a 10-year-old Naruto? Well, he can't help being less badass than me. If Neji was here, he would tell you that it was fated. Naruto said the amused smirk. What about this one then? He looks like he's about to melt and dribble on the floor, she said, as she looked towards Shikamaru who was just slouching. Shikamaru probably wouldn't mind that. Having a spine is so troublesome after all. Troublesome, Shikamaru said with a sigh. This is why they didn't hang out with Naruto. It wasn't because they disliked him or anything, but you couldn't talk to him without being drawn into a fight or something. Zanna lost interest as he snatched some of the meat from Choji. Hey, said Choji. What, she said. She challenged, her eyes narrowed, as Choji saw her fangs, as she lightly snarled at him. Choji broke into a cold sweat, feeling the same twist in his stomach like Kiba. He really didn't want to share his food, but he did not want to go up against this woman either. He didn't know if she was a kunoichi or not, but something was telling him that it wouldn't end well for him. Nothing, he said. As Zanna took the rest of his food on purpose, seeing that he wouldn't even protest about her taking it, as she really hated when people were cowards. Isn't he supposed to be a shinobi, someone that dealt with life and death situation on a daily basis? But yet, all it took was a stare and he backed down. That is why she took the rest of it, just on principle. After all, she wasn't hungry. She didn't need to eat. Beloved, I'm getting hungry, she said to Naruto in a husky voice, as it was clear what kind of hunger she was talking about. Me too, love. Let's go eat, he said in the same tone, leaning to her, ignoring the looks on the other three. They were just about to get up and leave when another voice intruded on them. Hey guys, who's your friend Naruto? Asuma greeted as he looked towards Naruto. He heard that Jiraiya and Naruto was back, but this was the first time he was seeing Naruto, and the first time he was seeing the gorgeous redhead with him. She looked towards him as she placed her claw hand on his cheek. Aye. She slashed him right where his beard was, taking a bit off. None of your concern, she said. As Naruto chuckled a bit and picked up his coat, as he grabbed her on the ass and walked out of the restaurant. What the hell was that? Asuma said. Well, Shikamaru said. We were just talking about how uncool we are when we noticed Naruto and his girlfriend walking past the restaurant. Kiba wanted to get a closer look, and he invited them to join us. Kiba was still bummed out about being less man than a 10-year-old Naruto. In just 10 minutes, she destroyed Kiba's pride, insulted me, and took Choji's food. She and Naruto apparently got horny while doing this, and they decided to go somewhere else, and you interrupted them. That is why she left you looking like an idiot. Honestly, Shikamaru was just glad he got off easy. As Asuma touched his now shaven cheek. He has never seen a Kunoichi like that before. Her coloring would have identified her as being a ninja from Kumo, but the Raikage would never send someone that kind of appearance on an infiltration mission. What's her name? He asked. Zanna. That name didn't sound like anything he ever heard before. And those eyes of hers. He only saw those eyes on the Kyuubi when the great demon had attacked Konoha. He had been a child then but already a shinobi. He could never forget those eyes. Despite the absurdity of it, the eyes, the fangs and the claws. As he wondered if the Kyuubi could possess a human form, he would have to tell Hokage about this and let her decide what was going on. Either way, welcome to the table of uncool guys, Asuma-sensei. You fit right in with your new, bearded style. Asuma scowled. He was not an uncool guy, damn it. Time skip. Do you have any idea how crazy that sounds, Asuma? The Bijous have always been known as giant, unstoppable force of nature. Not once has anyone ever think or saw that one of them are intelligent. And now you're telling me that you think the Kyuubi is free, and that she's walking around in human form, not destroying the village, and insulting my shinobis and cutting off their beard, Asuma. And dating Naruto? Tsunade said to now clean, shaved Asuma, as he was forced to cut the rest of it off, or look like an idiot until it regrew. The choice was rather simple, since he could just regrow the entire thing. I know how it sounds, Hokage-sama, and I'm not saying I'm 100% certain about this. I just think it would be wise to get Naruto's seal checked. Tsunade rubbed the bridge of her nose. The problem is, Naruto is our best SealMaster, and he's the one most qualified to check the seal. If I ask him to let Jerry take a look at it, it's gonna look like I have no trust in him, or no faith in his ability. That being said, you do have a point. Just because we never heard of it before, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. I'll have Jiraiya to take a look at the seal to see if Naruto might have released the Kyuubi. Dismiss, she said. Asuma nodded as he left the office. So, what do you think, Jiraiya? She said. I don't know, Tsunade. Naruto isn't an easy guy to figure out. Some of the time he's just blunt like hammer, but he's a very sneaky guy when he wants to be. Jiraiya says he dropped his personal, invisible technique. Have you ever heard of this Zanna before? Or at least a place where that kind of name might come from? The only thing I heard was a few rumors about Naruto taking her on a date 3 years ago, but I was more focused on outside threats. As for the name, your guess is as good as mine. Tsunade sighed. She really wanted to believe that Naruto didn't release the Kyuubi, but everything she was hearing make this woman sound more and more suspicious. If she even was a woman and not a giant demonic fox in disguise. Well, I guess there's nothing else but to check Naruto's seal, and hope he doesn't get offended. Time skip. If there was a way to continuously roll one's eyes, Naruto would be doing so, as his godfather looked at the seal on his stomach. He needed a channel chakra into it to keep it visible, but he's gotten used to doing that. It had been required if you want to tamper with it at all. Clearly, they were doing this because someone has reported about Zanna, most likely Asuma. It was a good thing Naruto prepared this bullshit ahead of time. So, Naruto, I heard you got yourself a girlfriend, said Tsunade. Fishing for information. Yep, said Naruto. How did you meet? Said Tsunade. Even if Zanna wasn't a Kyuubi, she would want to know something like this. I met her when I was 10 years old. I was in a tight spot in the red light district, and she helped me. She is probably the only reason I didn't starve, because of the misguided villagers and their idiotic hatred. Naruto said, scowling at the end. That was a sore spot for him, even all these years later. So she was like a big sister to you. How old is she anyway? I think she's about 30 or so. She never told me her exact age, said Naruto. Well, he was saying half truth. After all, that was true. Zanna did help him out, and she was probably 30 centuries or so, maybe. And she's definitely never been like a big sister to me, said Naruto. What do you mean, said Tsunade. Well, I asked her to marry me pretty much on the day we met. As Naruto saw the look on Tsunade's face. Why the hell would you do that, she said. I was an orphan that everyone hated except for the Ichirakus, and I didn't even know what marriage meant. I just knew that married people stay together forever, and I just didn't want her to leave. That was the truth. And it will also make Jiraiya feel guilty for not being around, and make Tsunade feel bad for what his life was like. They would be less likely to be suspicious that way. Oh, did she explain to you? Not exactly, she just told me she would never marry someone so weak. It was a bit harsh, but it gave me a reason to train and get stronger, which was probably the point. She had some kunoichi training, so she was able to point me in the right direction and get started. I have never heard of any kunoichi like her being part of Konoha, Jiraiya said. Well, that's because she was never a kunoichi. Her parents were Kumo ninjas, and moved to Konoha just before the Kyuubi attack. Unfortunately, they died in the Kyuubi attack and she had to survive alone. But seeing that they taught her some of their skills, she didn't have too rough of a time, making it in the red light district. That was a good way to explain her skin color. And seeing that none of them were in the village at the time, neither Jiraiya or Tsunade, well, they couldn't tell. Why did her parents defect from Kumo? Asked Tsunade. Apparently, her parents had a minor bloodline, one that gave them natural, stronger bodies, with claws and fangs. And Kumo wanted to breathe it and spread it around. They took exception to that and escaped, eventually coming to Konoha and settled down. Zanna never left the red light district and kept out of sight. She was probably a bit paranoid about being used as breeding stock. That would make complete sense, seeing that in the red light district, you could just vanish in there without anyone knowing about you. And given the Hyuga's trouble with Kumo, that would be a good reason for her to keep to herself. Zanna isn't even her birth name. It was something she chose for herself, to conceal herself further, and no, I don't know what her birth name was. Tsunade nodded, but she was prevented from saying anything further, seeing that Naruto continued. And the slitty red eyes, and my fangs are like hers. It's because the bloodline originated from Kinkaku and Ginkaku, who said to have absorbed some of the Kyuubi's chakra. This was so much bullshit, Naruto was surprised that they couldn't figure it out. You couldn't just get a bloodline from absorbing a Kyuubi's chakra. How did you know I want to know about that, said Tsunade. Well, you got Jerry looking at my seal, when you know perfectly well I can do it myself. On top of that, you're asking me about my girlfriend, who have some very interesting features. I'm guessing some genius put 2 and 2 together and got 22, thinking I'm dating a Kyuubi in human form or something. As his tone sounded really annoyed, to show how stupid he found the idea. Both Jiraiya and Tsunade looked sheepish, as he realized this was ridiculous when you thought about it. That never happened. But I guess I can't blame you. It's not the first time some moron accused her of being a Kyuubi just because of her looks, said Naruto. The two of them looked shamefaced at that. They pride themselves on not, well, judging people because of their appearances, but they just accused Naruto's girlfriend, who he clearly loved, about being a demon just because she looked different. Well, on another note, the seal is perfectly fine, said Jiraiya, in an awkward tone, knowing that this information wasn't making him or Tsunade look any better. Naruto rolled his eyes. Of course the seal was fine, it was just empty. Duh. Did you really think I'll release a giant evil demon? The two saw and shifted like small children, as Tsunade asked another question to divert the attention. So if you've been training hard all this time just because you want to marry her, why did you sleep around other women? She did her best to keep her tone neutral. She didn't want it to sound like she was accusing him of anything. Well, I was pretty damn persistent about that. I declared my intention to marry her pretty much every other day. I must have gotten through to her because she slept with me when I was 16, Naruto said. And then what, said Jiraiya, as he started to get interested. Well, she told me that I sucked, and that I should go out and sleep with other women to get practice. Both Jiraiya and Tsunade crashed down to the ground, as they were never expecting that in the slightest. Boy, Jiraiya said, that woman's a keeper. Don't ever let her go. You don't find a woman like that every day, said Jiraiya as he felt proud. And she's okay with you sleeping around like that, even now, said Tsunade. Well, once I got back from training trip, she finally admitted that she loved me. So I wasn't going to plan on keeping it up. Now all I have to do is convince her to marry me, and I would have achieved my life ambition. This whole thing is insane, but I guess that's normal when I'm dealing with you. I can't help but admire the fact that you've been doing all of this to get so strong, to marry a woman you've been chasing for 10 years. Get out of here, you perverted, romantic bastard, she said. She tried to scowl, but she was smiling. This would certainly explain why he was so angry on his training trip. He was separated from the woman that he loved. As if that was the way he was when she wasn't there. She didn't want to think how he would have been if that woman hadn't met him when he was younger. He would have probably turned this village into a smoking crater, especially the way the villagers treat him. As Naruto got up and left, well, I guess I was worried about his attitude on training trip for no reason, said Jiraiya. I'll ask him if you want to start training Senjutsu soon. His chakra reserves are more than big enough, and his body is plenty strong for it as well. Besides that, any man willing to do all that for the sake of love, will not abuse the power. Yeah, the brat definitely deserved to learn Senjutsu. I can't believe I actually took Asuma concern seriously. Kyuubi in a human form. What a joke, she scoffed. Time skip. And then, I said that you were the descendant of Kinkaku and Gingaku. They gained some sort of bloodline when they absorbed the Kyuubi's chakra. Naruto gasped out while he was laughing, tears leaking from his eyes. And they bought that, Zanna said, as she was laughing as well, as Naruto just nodded, laughing too hard to really say anything. The both of them were on the bed laughing their ass off, as Zanna couldn't believe that he was actually able to sell that story. She picked her appearance because she had a liking to darker skin tone, and Naruto used that, and to make this twisted story. Still laughing, Naruto rolled on top of her and started to kiss her, which she quickly returned. Time skip. Naruto and Sakura were making their way towards Tsunade's office, as they were summoned for a mission. In addition to that, Naruto has also finished his project, making Tsunade super strength into a Funjutsu, version, and also the mystical palm as well. Despite looking simple, the super strength technique was incredibly hard to do. It was rather impressive that Tsunade and Sakura could do it with only chakra control, as it was only the tip of it to release a burst of chakra. At the same time, they need to reinforce their wrist, elbow, shoulder, spine, and other joints to prevent them from getting damage. As Naruto had inscribed seals, his shoulders, his thighs, his spine. As he expected though, it sucked chakra really crazy. That is why Tsunade and Sakura only use it for a short burst. Even he would go dry, after probably a week after using it. Yeah, he had a lot of chakra. The whole seal in array looked like he was going around his neck and shoulder when he was active at least. When he was deactivated, he was invisible. Not to mention he had literally hundreds of sealing palm technique around him. As you remember how Master's healing ability went off when Sakura had added the mystic palm, so he just inscribed the seal all over his body. Suddenly, Naruto stepped back as a strange creature landed. As Naruto chains impale it, only for it to burst into ink. On the roof, said Sakura. As Naruto glanced up to see a teenager, black hair, pale skin. Naruto launched himself towards the assailant, chains ripping through any of the ink beasts that tried to stop him. It was certainly an interesting technique, but the beasts themselves weren't all that strong. As the pale teenager drew Tonto, as he thought that Naruto would back off, as he slashed. As Naruto got slashed across his arm, but he started to heal instantly as he smashed his fist into the person's face. As Naruto only wanted to knock the guy unconscious or knock him to the ground, but he forgot that his strength seal was enhancing his body, and it was activated. So the guy's head snapped with a sickening sound as his body dropped down. Sakura's eyes went wide. Naruto, what did you do? As she looked on the assailant, his neck was snapped. Oops, said Naruto. Time skip. He murdered my subordinate, Danzo said that scowl. He was going to milk this for all it was worth. Sly was a useful tool and it was a shame to lose him, but his death would be useful. The very idea, me, a murderer, said Naruto. Murder is premeditated. He and Sakura were called to Tsunade's office where three elders were already waiting. They were discussing something else when an Anbu agent informed them about the PL team, who was named Sai. Naruto lost a slight regret when he found out that this guy was a subordinate of Danzo's. The one-eyed mommy was someone that should be lying in a coffin somewhere. In Naruto's opinion, he was only supposed to test you to see how skilled you were, and you killed him for it. Danzo insisted. In my defense, it was an accident. I didn't know he was going to be so fragile, said Naruto. Enough, Tsunade said. Danzo, you have no business sending anyone to test one of my shinobis, so you have only yourself to blame if you die doing so. Danzo scowled slightly. Naruto, do try to be more careful in the future though, she said, her tone less harsh than when she was addressing Danzo. You're just gonna let him get away with killing Nakono shinobi? Tsunade, Koharu said in shock and disbelief. Tsunade turned towards the old woman by addressing her in such a familiar manner. Who the hell do you think you are to address the Hokage like you're her equal? Naruto asked the elders, as he wasn't much for a title or formality, but these elders just pissed him off by them breathing. Now listen here, boy, whom he was about to say, but he was cut off as Naruto released a massive fluctuation of chakra in the room, making them go quiet. Enough, Tsunade said. This discussion is over, she said, stopping anything before it could escalate further. Naruto was attacked without provocation and was fully in his right to defend himself against anyone. She said with finality, making it clear she didn't want to hear another subject about it. That being said, if any of you three ever address me as anything but Hokage-sama again, you will not like the consequences, she said, looking towards the elders. She had put up with their disrespect because they, and her sensei, was people that she looked up to in her youth. Naruto had a good point though. She was Hokage, and they had no business talking under her. She hadn't put too much, thought into her words. People that were in power for too long now had the balls to, misuse it. And Danzo would send someone to attack Naruto in broad daylight. "Now get out of my office, Danzo," she said. As Danzo left with irritation on his face, the Kyuubi Jinjuku was getting even more out of control than when the third was in power. Danzo had failed to seize power before. The woman was appointed, and she was being too lenient with the boy. Something would be have done about this, and soon. She took a deep breath to calm herself as she turned towards her fellow blonde. "Naruto, due to your performance on your recent missions to rescue the Hokage, I'm promoting the Chunin, effective immediately and no, you can't refuse." She added the last part, as she saw him open his mouth and she guessed what he was about to ask. She didn't bother to get a vest for him, as she was sure that he would refuse to wear it anyway. "Fine," said Naruto, as Tsunade smirked along with Sakura, and Shizune as well. "There's one other thing we should discuss with you," so Hokage-sama, Homura said, catching himself in time before he called her by name again. "The Akatsuki becoming more active, hunting Jinjulkis. We feel it would be wiser to keep Naruto confined to the village," Koharu said, as Naruto broke out laughing. "You're pathetic," he said. "Look at you, pissing yourself at the thought of a few measly S-rank missing in." He turned his back towards him as he didn't want to waste any more breath on them. As he spoke to Tsunade instead, "I finished both of those projects we discussed 2 weeks ago, Hokage-sama. Here's the first batch, if they're good enough for you. I will start making some more." As he placed a box in her decks, for once he called her by her title, but that was because he wouldn't want to undermine her authority in front of these fools. Tsunade took the box. She was going to inspect when she was alone. The other one as well? She wanted to know if he managed to recreate her strength technique as well. "On that note, I would like if you send me on any missions related to the Akatsuki. I want some guinea pigs to test it on after all." "That's too reckless. If they capture you and extract the Kyuubi, there's no telling what kind of calamity can be befallen Konoha," Homura said. "You worthless piece of crap really have no backbone, do you?" As he grinned to see how much her expression tightened at the insult. "I'm not gonna cower behind a wall while the Akatsuki go around and hunt me. Very soon, they will learn to fear me. Send me after them, you won't be disappointed," he said as he looked towards Tsunade. As she saw the eager grin on his face, if he truly managed to do what he said about her strength technique, then he would be even more dangerous than before. He may not have her evasion training, but he have a healing factor, and Akatsuki need him alive. Well, he didn't need to hold back against them. Fighting against a fearless man with, infinite chakra reserves. Seeing that she never saw Naruto run out of chakra yet, or never hear about something like that. After all, he had so much. That was a bad situation for them, and they had to hold back against him to bring him back alive. And not to mention, with his strength now, he could break you in half with one punch. After considering it, Naruto was one of Konoha's strongest shinobi, and the Akatsuki need to hold back against him, while he did not have to do that. He was pretty much the best possible choice for fighting them. Aside from that, Jiraiya will take him to Mount Miyaboku soon, and she knew the power boost that came from that. She knew that he would be stronger than her and Jiraiya as a sage. That means protecting him in the village would be pointless, since he could literally go out there and beat down the Akatsuki himself. "Alright Naruto, I'll send you along with any team that go on missions where Akatsuki-related activities are suspicious." "Good," said Naruto. "I can't wait for those idiots to attack." As he left the room, swinging his head so his ponytail smacked Call right in the face as she glared at him. As Tsunade really wondered why Naruto hated the elders so much. In fact, they didn't really talk that much. Well, she shook it off. "Take this with you, Sakura, and go after him." As she handed Sakura a scroll. The main reason I promoted the Chunin was that the both of you can go on a mission with a Jonin escort. Not to mention he's too powerful to still be a genin. Sakura nodded and left, rushing to catch up with Naruto so they can get started on their mission. "As for you too, Naruto is one of the strongest shinobis of the village, and you will do well to remember that. Try to interfere with him again, or undermine my authority, and I'll have you two removed from your positions. Am I understood?" "Yes, Hokage-sama," he said. Time skip. Unknown location. It was Pain that called the entire Akatsuki in, with Data and Sorcerer dead. Other developments would be need to make adjustment for the plans. Yes, Toby had brought Data in, but none of them were skilled with poison enough, as well as medical ninjutsu to cure him. Not to mention the poison was already in an advanced stage. His death wasn't that a loss though. He just had the ability to fly to cover greater distance with advanced speed. But in more than less, he was just a dumb muscle for the group. The retrieval was more about getting Akatsuki ring. Sorcerer loss was, severe. The puppeteer had created a vast spy network across the elemental nation. Zetsu was the best spy, but the amount of information gained by having spies everywhere was, A big loss on them. Hidan and Kakazu will go after Nebe and Kumo. Yujito has a high bounty on her. I'll collect on it after we seal the Nebe, said Kakazu. God damn it. The only thing you care about is money, huh? Hidan said with a scoff. It's better than religion. Money is at least useful. Before Hidan could say anything more, enough, said Pain. The command in his voice was clear, and no one dared disobey. Hidan realized his soul removal. Well, that would be bad for him, seeing that Pain could literally suck the soul out of his body and still kill him. And Kakazu, Pain could simply absorb his attack with the Breather Path. Both of them were pretty much forced into the service of the Akatsuki, but they couldn't really do anything about it, and they didn't really mind since one of them collect high bounties and the other one sacrificed for Jashin. We have lost track of the Sandaime, so Zetsu will search the water coast where it was last seen. Toby will help him. Huh? Toby gets to help Mr. Zetsu on his mission? Toby is so excited, he said. Itachi and Kisame will remain inactive for now. We will gather again once the Navy is due for extraction, said Pain. And with that, they were dismissed. Time skip. Zanna was lying on Naruto's chest, her tails whipping around behind her. She enjoyed having her tails out like this. Sometimes she had to keep them hidden, but she enjoyed having them free. As she observed her sleeping lover, it still felt strange to think of him as such. He had truly surprised her with this endless persistence. She never actually thought that he would succeed to make her love him, yet he drive that emotion out of her which she thought she didn't really have. She was well aware there was something not quite right with him. Humans simply didn't work that way. They weren't supposed to just focus on something so single-minded. As she remembered in his younger years, he was so obsessive. He didn't care if he literally drove himself into the ground, if it meant winning her over. Probably when it comes to human regards, he was not really sane. She supposed 15 years of being in his head, whispering to him, would do that, and his devotion to her. Well, no matter, she preferred him this way. Normal was overeaten and boring. As she knew the best way to wake him up, as she slowly slid herself down. It took only a few seconds, as Naruto's eyes shut open. Time skip. Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino were sitting on a bench outside the emergency room, worried about their sensei. Shikamaru had been the only one of the three to take part in the battle against the Akatsuki member Hidan and Kakazu that ended with a severely injured Asuma. Choji and Ino team had arrived just a bit too late. If it wasn't for the ceiling tags that had medical ninjutsu chakra in them, he'd have been dead already. As it was, he still had some severe burns from his own technique, and a heart injury from Hidan's binding technique that uses his blood. The healing tag kept Asuma heart operating, despite the damage that was done to it. They had rushed him back to Konoha constantly, putting seal tags on his chest. All three of them had gained a new respect for Naruto seals, as it was the only thing that kept their sensei alive to get here. The other medical ninjas couldn't help with that, as Tsunade had to take over the treatment immediately. That had been hours ago and they hadn't heard anything. That was a bit comforting, since they would have heard something their sensei was dead. A carrier had rushed into the room carrying a box a few hours ago. After a while, Tsunade finally stepped out of the room. They all instantly jumped to their feet. His heart was too badly damaged to save, she said. Their hopes started to plummet. But fortunately, we had a heart with the proper blood type available for transplant, so he's gonna survive. But he's gonna be out of commission for a while. Shikamaru and Choji slumped down in relief as Ino launched herself and hugged Tsunade, thanking her with a hug. Know that Asuma is out of danger. I want to report on what happened, Tsunade demanded as Shikamaru outlined their battle with the Akatsuki. I see, so they were too much for her team to handle. Tsunade expected that much. Asuma was powerful, but S-Ranky was not. Shikamaru, Kotetsu, and Izuma who were on the team were weaker than him. They weren't even supposed to be fighting them, but it was just their bad luck, as one of the Akatsuki members that went after Asuma's friend. And the Akatsuki team was in no hurry, because Asuma team was just supposed to investigate. So, with them hurrying, they were able to catch up to the Akatsuki team that was walking rather slowly. Hokage-sama, are you going to send anyone after them? Said Shikamaru. Naruto has requested to be sent after any Akatsuki members we catch wind of. So I'm going to be sending him and a team to back him up. I request to be part of the team. I've seen them fight and I believe I can offer some insight in the battle, Shikamaru said firmly. We'd like to join as well, Choji and Ino said. As Tsunade looked them over, they had years of work together and they were motivated, even if their motivation was for revenge right now. Ino didn't have a lot of combat ability, but she did have the medical training, so she could play the support role. She was still unsure if sending Naruto after them was wise, but if he had enough backup it should work out fine. Fine, said Tsunade. Shikamaru, Find Sakura. She's somewhere in the hospital right now. Choji, go and get Kakashi. You will need his ability as a tracker. He's probably at the Memorial Stone. Ino, call Naruto, he's at his house. And hurry it up. We don't want them escaping. Tsunade figured that should be plenty enough to take down the Akatsuki members. It might be overkill depending on how strong Naruto was. But overkill was better than being, well, underestimated. Time skip. Ino rushed up Naruto's door and started to bang rapidly. She wanted to quickly take down those guys, who nearly killed her sensei. Hours had already passed. She knew that Kakashi was a good tracker, and provided that it didn't rain, she wanted to find him as quick as possible. When he didn't answer immediately, she opened the door and barged in, running into the next room. Hey Naruto, Tsunade-sama sent me to... She trailed off. As she came upon Naruto's back, he was completely naked, with the legs of his girlfriend named Zanna, wrapped around him, as he currently had her pressed into the wall. Naruto probably noticed her, and was just ignoring her, or he hadn't noticed her yet, but Zanna did as she was smirking, as Zanna sank her teeth into Naruto's shoulder. A seal faded into visibility before the wounds were gone, just leaving the blood trails. We have company, beloved, she whispered in his ear, once he was finished, as he let her down. Ino quickly diverted her eyes, as Naruto started to turn to face her as she knew that he was naked. She was just a bit too late though. Is there something that you want, Ino? Naruto said, impatiently. He was in a good mood, and he didn't want it interrupted. 2 Akatsuki members have been spotted and Tsunade-sama sent me to get you. She squeaked out nervously, her eyes flitting towards him from time to time, only to look away again embarrassedly. Those bastards really have bad timing, Naruto said. He might have been eager to fight them, but this timing was just off. Go on, Naruto, a fight will get you all nice and worked up, and we can continue when you come back. As Zanna placed her yukata back on, as she didn't bother to tie it, so her lower ears were exposed. She didn't seem ashamed at all. Naruto made his way towards the bathroom to get a shower and to get dressed. Ino was left alone with Zanna, as Zanna was looking her over. So, you're the last of those girls that graduated to the academy with Naruto, she said casually as she walked over. Yes, Ino Yamanaka. Nice to meet you, Zanna-san. She had to be polite and looked at the person that she was talking to, but the girl wasn't wearing anything on her lower half. As she turned her head away again, it sounded so funny when Sakura told her about this thing happening to her, but it didn't seem so funny now. You've interrupted a very nice morning, Ino, said Zanna. Sorry. As Ino wondered if there was anything she could say in this situation. As Zanna reached her and pushed her against the wall, Ino tried to push her off, but Zanna grabbed both of her hands and pinned her against the wall. If you want to apologize, then perhaps you should use that pretty motive of yours to clean me off, instead of offering useless words. What? Ino said. She tried to get away, but she could not. Words are meaningless. If you're truly sorry, then you will act. As she used her left hand to grab Ino's left breast. I'm not gonna do that, said Ino. As Zanna saw Ino looking down. Oh, does that interest you? Ino shook her head as she tried to push herself in the wall to get away from this woman that was molesting her. Really? Said Zanna, as her hand went down towards Ino, lower half. Just then, love, what are you doing? Said Naruto. To Ino's dismay, he sounded rather amused more than anything. I was just about to see if this one was interested in a taste of you. What for? Said Naruto. She said that she was sorry for interrupting us, so I told her she could truly apologize, said Zanna, as she released Ino as Ino used a chance to jump away. Naruto nodded, like that made perfect sense to him. Ino was only sorry that she was the one to interrupt us. She didn't actually care that she did. Oh, said Zanna. I suppose there was no reason to molest her then, as she was fully aware of this already, but it was amusing to mess with the girl. Yes, molesting the messenger is usually quite pointless. Ino looked at them. If she was understanding this correctly, she was just molested because she apologized. What kind of messed up twisted logic was that? She closed her mouth before anything else could be said about it. Naruto, when you find them and kill them, I want you to do it in the most painful way possible. They deserve for causing this interruption. She said in a loving tone that disturbed Ino. How could you say something like that in a loving tone? Of course, my love, I'll make them feel all kind of pain. A whole spectrum of pain, like a rainbow of pain, said Naruto. Ino was seeing how messed up this relationship was, as they were talking about killing people in lovey-dovey tones. What the hell? It now made sense why Choji and Shikamaru described Zanna a bit of a bitch. Good, said Zanna. She gave him a deep kiss. But stay away from Poacher. You're really quite bad at it, she said when the kiss was over. Naruto snorted in amusement as he turned towards the disturbed Ino. Well, come on then. We have some Akatsuki to kill. But guys, to be in this episode right here, if you want the next part of this, to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. But I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace.